With this, we are moving to our very first session of day 2, which is about policy implications and needs for achieving LSDG. And that will focus on the current policy landscape that exists and whether the same is facilitating the process of an inclusive bottom-up localization of SDGs. In this, we have 4 panel members, and I would like to invite them on stage, starting with Shri Amarjeet Sinha Sir, who is a member in Public Enterprises Selection Board. Shri Charanjit Singh Sir, Additional Secretary, Rural Livelihoods, Ministry of Rural Development in Government of India. Mr. R. Ilango, who is a social innovator, Kutumbukam village, Tamil Nadu. Mr. Anjani Kumar Singh, Senior Program Officer in BNGF India. The moderator of this session will be Mr. Naren. And before entering into the session, I would like to take a few more minutes to introduce our esteemed speakers to all of you. Shri Sinha Sir has 40 years of experience in government, largely in the rural and social sectors. He has had the unique distinction of having played a major role in designing Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the National Rural Health Mission, and bringing about governance reforms in programs for rural areas, covering livelihoods, employment, housing, social security, skills, urban development, and road construction. At the state level, Sir served in the education and health sectors also. He was the former secretary to MORD, Government of India. His book was recently published called The Last Mile, Turning Public Policy Upside Down, and his contribution is bringing the real issues at grassroots and policies and designing the way forward. With this, I welcome Shri Sinha Sir. Talking about Shri Charanjit Singh Sir, Sir is an IFS officer of the 1990 batch. He has an extensive experience as a civil servant. As Additional Secretary, he is presently heading the Rural Livelihood Division in the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, with the responsibility to execute the vision of the government to strengthen community institutions under National Rural Livelihood Mission so that they are efficiently managed and attain self-reliance. He has published articles on land acquisition, land titling, land records, and rural development. He served as Joint Secretary, Rural Skills Division in the Ministry of Rural Development from 2018 to 2020. Currently, Sir is an Additional Secretary in Rural Livelihoods, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Mr. Ilango, an energetic grassroots social innovator, hails from a marginalized community in Kutumbukam village, about 30 kilometers from Chennai city. He is determined to set new standards in rural development and build model villages for that. The impacts are scaled and measured to create ripple in the villages and moving towards Gram Swaraj. In 1998, he created a caste-neutral housing program inspiring the Samatvapuram idea in Tamil Nadu government. He works on housing for villagers, got World Habitat Award in 2006. Mr. Anjani leads the foundation work in India related to community platforms and gender equality. He works very closely with the Ministry of Rural Development and several state rural livelihood missions and other development institutions around issues of women economic empowerment. He has more than 25 years of experience in designing, operationalizing large-scale rural development programs in the area of community institution building, rural livelihoods, rural enterprise promotion, community finance, agriculture value, chain development, monitoring and evaluation, and management of development programs. Last but not the least, Mr. Naren. He needs no introduction, but has been associated with PRADAN since 1989. The work done by Naren in the late 80s paved the way for the emergence of women's self-help group movement. He had been involved in a number of research and documentation efforts to build the knowledge. Later, he set up the National Resource Center for Rural Livelihoods that informed the design of the flagship programs such as Day NRLM and Manrega. He served as the Executive Director of PRADAN from 2017 to 2022. With this, I invite Naren on podium to start the session. And this session is of 1 hour. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for 1 hour? 10:40. So 11:40 is roughly we should. So thank you, Shikha. And welcome to everybody here on the second day of the Samagam 23. And welcome to the very esteemed and learned panel here. Sharbani has given us a good overview of what happened yesterday. So in a sense, even though you were not able to join yesterday, I'm sure you had a good input into what happened yesterday. So the policy session is the kind of a culmination of any discussion in that sense. So also it's the climax, I would say, and it's a very important session. Yesterday, as Sharbani reminded us, we looked at how the current policies related to localizing of sustainable development goals, where we are, how much we need to go further. So all that we looked at, and today we have to talk, at least in this session, we really need to talk in this session and surely the next. We have to look at how are we going ahead from here. What are the kind of new, out of the box, innovative thoughts that have to come. Therefore, this panel has a very important responsibility of throwing up ideas that are disruptive, innovative. The primary assumption here being, we're not very happy with where we are. 112 out of 166 in achievement of SDGs, with just about 7 years to go. I don't think we are in a very happy place. So how do we speed up the whole process? How do we push the needle much faster so that that requires more deliberate, speedier, faster steps. So what are those? Those are the ideas all of us are looking forward to in this session. So it's not about the existing policies. That has been described very well yesterday. We had some very nice knowledge session, including all the other discussions. So we have really discussed what are the current policies, but we need to look at and so this session is a bit about how the existing policies can be implemented better. Surely there are implementation hitches and problems, but it's more about more radical changes. How are we going to push the envelope further? Localizing SDGs, which the idea became popular about 5-8 years, more than 5 years back. It's a very radical idea. It is very fresh. It is, it's a different idea in a sense compared to the whole narrative of SDGs that we had. So the spirit of the localizing SDG is disruption through devolution. So how do we make it more disruptive? How do we actually make it more bolder? And there were some disruptive voices yesterday here as well in the hall, where we spoke about how do we devolve more resources? How do we engineer more convergence? How do we do this in a manner where we trust the communities more, not load them with data and all kinds of structures and frameworks? Let them be, trust them. Devolve money, give them money, and let them decide what are their priorities. So there were some very interesting discussions yesterday. We need to further. So currently there is a very good infrastructure there in terms of the Panchayati Raj institutions which are there. We have a very strong set of community-based organizations, the self-help groups which are there under the NRLM. So this PRA, CBO convergence is something we really talked about. So how do we make it stronger? Like Sharda said yesterday, it's not just the PRA, CBOs that need to converge. The government needs to come in very strongly and very supportively. The government needs to facilitate this convergence. So we spoke yesterday about PRI, CBO, the government and the markets. How do all these multiple players work together, and how do we leverage this, this synergy to speed up the process of localizing the SDG process? So we are really looking forward to a couple of out-of-the-box disruptive ideas from this panel. So each of you are in your own vantage, doing this at your own levels. So each of you have 10 minutes each to start with, and then we'll give you more time if required, and if they sitting there allow us. So I'll start off. We'll request Mr. Ilango to start. He's been a practitioner. We all heard about his biodata. He's the one who's innovated things at his own level in his panchayat as the mukhya in that panchayat. He's experienced the weight and also the, what do you say, the facilitation of the policies. He's experienced everything in spite of or because of the support and the policies. He has innovated. He has done a lot of innovations at your own levels. So could you reflect on what facilitated your working as a Sarpanch and subsequently the various things that you've done on tracking, etc. And what would you say today to the current policy infrastructure, and what are your suggestions? 10 minutes to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I place my sincere thanks for giving this opportunity. As it is heard, I am the witness what was 73rd Amendment, how it was passed, then how Kerala adopted, how Karnataka adopted, how West Bengal adopted, and how other states have adopted, and what is the potential of panchayats. Just to make a model to experiment myself, I quit my job in 1996 when the panchayat elections were declared in Tamil Nadu, first time, after 73rd Amendment. Then became the Sarpanch of the village. Then the constitution is very clear. Panchayat itself is a government, it's a local self-government. Again, it's not a government, it's a self-government. Because there is a possibility of self. Then I try to make that village as a model. We prepared constitutionally, Panchayat has to prepare a plan for 5 years. We prepared a 5-year plan. All the 50 years felt need of the village was drafted, approved by the people, participated by the people, and in phase by phase, we started this in 1996. In 2001, this village became a model. In 2001 to 2006, further added, it became a model for the country, variety of things, A to Z development. So in that experiment, one is my own experiment in my own village with my own community, interestingly with a system, it's a constitutional system. So that's why what I'm trying to emphasize here, in Kerala, 2 terms, in 1995 to 2001 or 2000 or 2000 to 2006, 2 terms finished. The whole panchayat system in Kerala has grown to the level that they are the government, they are the local self-government. It is not Kutumbakam Panchayat, it's Kutumbakam local self-government in the case of Kerala. Go to Kerala, it's like government of India, like that every village, Kannadi local self-government. That's the name of the panchayat system. And it is not only that feeling of pride that something, then everything is addressed. Panchayat is a government, it's a local self-government. It's happening, except Kerala, it's not happening in other places. Here and there, some small things are happening. Again, the worrisome is one village in one district, one state, or 10 villages in one state. Like that, all along, out of 2,73,000 or mentioned panchayats, even if it is 1% is successful, we should have at least 2,500 outstanding model panchayats. Not even 1%. You catch up one Ilango, talk for 10 years in Tamil Nadu, catch up other A in West Bengal, talk for 10 years when something it's really ironical, I can say that. Something wrong, but we have to work for that. Then, when I started implementing everything, A to Z development, variety of technologies have been demonstrated. Yes, technologies are very much available, people-friendly, appropriated technologies are very much available in variety of institutions, right from IITs, CSIR, laboratories, and so many things. They have been developed for keeping people in mind, but they have not reached the people. That's again the question. So how the panchayat can work as a bridge between the institutions and the community. So that's a need of the hour, and that was addressed in my model. So after achieving A, B, C, infrastructure, road, drainage, housing, then the real issue in this, burning issue in this country is the caste. We started a program called Samatvapuram. That was historical one. After that, nowhere in the country or nowhere in the world it was started. We constructed 100 twin houses, that is 50 twin houses for 100 families. Out of that, each house, one side a so-called Dalit family, other side a Brahmin family. One side the Dalit family, other side a Naidu family. And they have been chosen from the same village by the same Gram Sabha. This could be happening in a town where you call some 40 Dalit families and again other people to come to live together. Here, in presence of your eyes, oh, he is a Dalit family and he is a Naidu family. I am a Naidu or I am a Brahmin, but I am a poor man. I am also living in a rental house. Why can't I come and live here? Then it was thrashed out in the Gram Sabha. Then we made that as a model. After seeing that, the then Chief Minister Karunanidhi made that as a scheme called Samatopuram. He promoted more than 235 Samatopurams in Tamil Nadu. While doing that, then we demonstrated variety of building models, something like this. So in this experiment, and I was really looking for systematic solutions. But now, thanks to SDG, thanks to UN or whomever done, it's a beautifully designed system. Goal number 1 to goal number 17. All the goals are done means the world is done. So that's a beautiful goal. But again, how can you take it to the community? That's again the question. So that's why when I was invited for this, they asked me, what are you doing with the SDG? Now I feel the SDG goal number 1, no hunger. Goal number 2, food security, that is no hunger. Goal number 1 is the no poverty. Goal number 3, then good education. Goal number 4, something like this. This is exactly thing a panchayat can do. Because in a panchayat, Tamil Nadu, except Kerala, other parts of the country, the panchayats are having 500 houses, 700 households, 1,300 households. In Tamil Nadu, average 700 to 1,000 households are one panchayat. And the sarpanches or the ward members, they all know every family. Because at the time of election, they go there and beg vote with all the 1,000 families in all the models. It may be their own relative way, it may be their own caste way, it may be their own giving some money and all these things. They know all the 1,100 families, every panchayat leader knows it. So that's why what I'm trying now, go with these goals. Goal number 1, no poverty. So it's a complicated goal. But a sarpanch, with a ward member, they can go there, say there is a fish vendor, a small poor family living in a small hut. Sit with the family, ask, can I declare your family is out of poverty? Then immediately the family reacts, are you joking? Then why not? Then what is the problem? Then what is the poverty you mean? The poverty of that fish vendor is different. The teacher's poverty is different. The family, the landlord's poverty is different. Then sit with family and make them to understand what is their poverty and how to come out, how to bring them out of poverty. What is their contribution? That fish vendor, how she is going to contribute. That husband, how she is going to contribute. The children, how they are going to contribute. Elders, how they are going to contribute. Panchayat, how it is going to contribute. How we are going to tap the government schemes. All these things we call SDG calendar. We are printing out a SDG calendar. Page number 1, no poverty, family, Saroja, husband, everything is there. And it's a complicated goal. It's a 5-year goal. So actually 60 boxes we designed. Each box number 1, open a RD. Box number 2, open a something. Then all 60 months calendar boxes we design and we track it. The family is tracking, panchayat is tracking, volunteers are tracking, government is also made to track it. We call SDG tracker. That's only the complicated goal. Second one is hunger, maybe a 6-month goal. Third one, good education, 2 months goal. Fourth, gender, again 6-month goal. Like that, we fix boxes and we track it. If we sincerely track it for next 5 years, I'm sure even the goal number 1, complicated goal like poverty eradication from that family is possible. And we are doing it, and I'm running pillar to post in the state, catching hold of good panchayats, again with Mission Samruti. Then we are doing a a cluster panchayats, like 6 or 7 panchayat as a cluster we are trying to do. Again, same way across the state, I've been working with variety of institutions. Right now I'm working with about 700 panchayats out of 12,350 panchayats in Tamil Nadu. And I'm sure this SDG goal is a real tool available. In 5 years' time, I'm having a target of, or we are running a target of 60,000 families in at least 60 panchayats. So that's the way we are going, and variety of things. Again, the technology, I'm a working scientist. Yeah, I'm finishing. I'm a working scientist. I'm an expert in appropriating technologies. Right now, we have got more than 55 appropriated technologies. Within that, except Rajasthan, the desert side, then all the villages, they are falling within this 51 or 55 technologies. Within that, we will solve all the problems, maybe in 1 year time, 2 year time, keeping SDG as a tracker, and we will achieve a lot. And this is what I want to share. And the greatest concern is, please forget the past. And today onwards, let us work. In 2 years' time or in 5 years' time, the whole of the country, the panchayats should work as a system in the village, not like a scheme, like a module 1, module 2, module 3. Still you are every 5-year modules, not parliament modules. Can you give a training for parliamentarians? Can you give a training for state assemblies? Like that, this panchayat is also a system available. Make it as a system, and if we sit together sincerely, in 5 years' time, there is a possibility of catching hold of the panchayats. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elango. I think we want to hear much more from you. So maybe we'll have more time after, maybe in the second round. So I just talked about disruptive ideas, and he himself is disruption. So I don't know what else can I say about he and his work. But some very interesting ideas. I mean, if you trust the panchayat, if you trust the ward and the committee and the sarpanch, I think they can do really disruptive wonders. So I won't say anything further. We'll give you more time after. Yeah. So next I will invite, no, sir, I want to invite Mr. Singh. So I want to invite Mr. Singh because he has to leave also, he said. Mr. Sinaji, he's got a meeting to go to. So he has got a meeting, so I think I will invite Mr. Singh. Again, as the additional secretary, I would request you, I mean, I actually wanted you to come in the end to really summarize everything and say what you're going to do. But nevertheless, you heard enough and you got the sense of what is happening here. So how do you think is the way ahead in terms of policies and new ideas?
Thank you, Naren. And first of all, I would like to thank PRADAN and the Axis Bank Foundation also that for giving me this opportunity and share some of my ideas. And it's a great opportunity to sit with Amarjit Sinha sir only. So to rub shoulders with him is a great thing. So I learned a lot from him. So I will just share some of my thoughts. And second, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak after Elango. Because that has been my concern always, that we should learn from the ground. We should not think that we know all things. And sometimes I feel that the people at the village level, they know much more than us also. How do we take their knowledge? That is a big challenge for us. And I'm not saying this just for the heck of saying. I will just give you one example that I learned during my posting in Sivni district. Sivni is in between Jabalpur and Nagpur, if you have some idea of Madhya Pradesh. And I love to go to the villages, and I think there the real knowledge lies. So I learned from that there is one village in Sivni district. They are doing this collection of sitafal or sharifa or custard apple. So it's a very sweet fruit, but it's perishable also. It perishes very fast. So I learned that they have now auctioned the sitafal in that area for around 2.5 lakhs. Collectively they did. So I thought it's a very good idea if they can earn money like this. So why not go to that village and learn about it, how they are functioning? So I went to that village. So I interacted with the community also, that how you are doing. They said, sir, we decided collectively that we will dispose of this Sharifa or Sitafal, and we will auction it, and we publicized it in the newspaper also, on the WhatsApp group also. We did all this. I think it's a very good idea. Sir, they said, you should come to the forest also and see how we are doing it. I said, okay, I will go with you also to the forest. So we went to that the area where they did the auction. So now I went around and I could observe that on every tree they have left 5 to 10 Sharifa. Now I said, why you have left? And you said that the contractor has collected all the Sharifa and he has gone away also. Then why you have left this 5 to 10 on each tree? They said, sir, in our contract, we have mentioned that the contractor needs to leave such a number of Sharifa on each tree. Now I said, why? Why did you leave this? Sir, they said the birds also need it. And I said, okay. And they said, sir, the birds will eat and then they will disperse the seed also. So the more Sharifa will come in the future. So I have been a forest officer, but nobody taught me these things. So this is the knowledge. So people are much more knowledgeable than us. So we need to take the knowledge from the field. So that is my submission to all my colleagues, that they should listen to the voices from the field. There are so many good voices that we will learn a lot from that. And the second thing I want to say is that the capacity building of the people is very important. We don't need to give the fish to the people every day, just teach them how to catch the fish, and then they will be on their own and they can do anything in life. And that has been the beauty of the NRLM. We are doing the capacity building in a very structured way. We have got around 119 national resource persons. Then we have got around 2,100 state resource persons. Then we have got this community resource persons at the village level who stay in the village and who do the hand holding of the villagers. So that is the beauty of the NRLM. So that's how we function it. So that is the strength I think we need to leverage it properly. And that is the support we need from civil society organizations also. Because they are the boots on the ground. The government can do only up to a certain extent. But if we want to reach such a humongous number of, like our Secretary Sir must have mentioned yesterday, of 10 crore households. 10 crore households means around 40 to 50 crore people. So it's a much larger than the population of the many countries also. For that we need the boots on the ground. So that is my expectation from the civil society organization, how we can work together. And we have seen so many successful models, like PRADAN is working with us in many states. So these are the successful models that needs to be replicated. And as I mentioned in the beginning also, that we need to teach the people how to do the fishing. But can we develop some sort of a portal? I was discussing with Pradhan, and that has been my idea, and constantly discussing with them. Why can't we have wiki livelihoods? Why can't we provide different sorts of livelihood models on the portal? Like I want to learn about something in regarding how to collect honey. So can't I learn in Odia or Kannada or Tamil, and I can go to just to that portal and select specific thing and specific language? Can't there be some videos or some modules available on that site? So that I can learn at my own pace. So that I think we need to work upon that. And I'm quite happy to share that, sir, we have made some beginning with the GIAZ regarding fisheries. We have developed a number of modules, not only the fishes, only how the pearl culture, then the crab culture, everything, the seaweed, how to grow the seaweed, then how to do the multiple livelihoods, like the paddy can be done with the poultry, and then the fishery can be associated. So there are so many modules available in the country. So why can't we have a portal of these things? So with GIZ, we have done one beginning. So I think that can be one idea which needs to be explored and shared with the people. so that they can learn more about that. And the next thing I want to focus on is the technology. I think technology is a great equalizer. So you can go to any village, you can see the people looking at the mobile. So we can provide the knowledge straight away through that also. Why I'm saying this? Sir, I was in Odisha just last week only, and I went to discuss with the performance of the FPOs. I'm quite happy to share this, sir. They had got 45 FPOs, and 45 FPOs have been onboarded on the eNAM portal. And all the produce has been sold through that portal only, eNAM. So that is the technology. So how the technology can be leveraged, it's a great opportunity for us, but we need to handhold our people and guide them. I think a lot of action can be taken in this regard also. So, and just one more thing I want to focus on, that is the convergence. Convergence is also very important. There are many schemes of the government, but sometimes I think somebody is working in one direction, somebody is working in separate direction. But if we work together, I think a lot of difference can be made. I will just give you one example that why I'm saying this. So you must be knowing about this Pashu Sakhis. So those are the community resource persons. We train them in this, know how to look after the animals, etc. So we do the training. So we had a discussion with the animal husbandry department. So they don't have such a large number of extension workers in the ground. So we decided to work together. So we exchanged our notes also, we exchanged the training modules also. Then we decided that we have a 42 days module for the Pashu Sakhis. They said we want to impart them 16 days more training. We said okay. And then they will certify them as A-HELP. That is the accredited agent for health and extension and livelihood production. So now our Pashu Sakhis are being recognized by the animal husbandry department, and they are going to provide the various services of the animal husbandry department in the field. So they want that we need 2 lakh such extension workers. We have got around 70,000. First we are training them, and then the rest of the community resource persons also we will select and train them, and then we will work with them. So that is the potential of this convergence between 2 departments. So, and we have mapped each and every Pashu Sakhi and village also, that where the Pashu Sakhi is needed, where we need to train more Pashu Sakhis. So, and the fourth thing I want to say is in connection with this convergence is the political buy-in. When the politicians are also on the board, then it creates such a momentum, it becomes a headache for us also. Now every state, every chief minister wants to launch the A-HELP program. So every state, whether Uttarakhand or whether Gujarat, every chief minister is launching this program. So if we get so much forces working together, I think then it can create a huge impact. So that is I think we need to look at such modules, how we can work together and how we can associate everybody with us. Then there is going to be win-win situation. So I wouldn't take much time. I will just give one more idea. So that is we have done a lot of work with the SDGs, as our secretary must have mentioned yesterday also. We have done around 10 crore SDGs. Financial inclusion, we have reached 7.5 lakh crore. So great things have been done. So that stage is over. Now we need to move to the next stage. That is the SDG bank linkage is good. Now some of the individual SDG members, they want to move ahead. They are not happy with 75,000 or 1 lakh rupees from the bank linkage. They want to take a loan of 5 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, and some of them want 25 lakh rupees also. They want to move to the next stage, because they want to establish their own entrepreneurship, and then they want to work on that. And as per our estimates, there are 1 crore women who want the help in this regard. So how we help them? We are already working with some banks like State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, etc., that how we can have specific products for our such SHG member, how we can provide help to them. So my question to this August gathering will be that how you can provide the hand holding to such SHG member. They require a higher level of mentorship, higher level of hand holding, higher level of business enterprises need to be supported. So that is my question. I will leave you with this question. Just think about this. But I think there is a great opportunity and the expectations are quite high from us. People want to move ahead in life. And just I will, sir, give you one more example that will put the things in context also. Why I'm saying that the expectations are also very high and why are the people want to move ahead in life. Sir, last year, around in the beginning of the last year, there were local body elections in Madhya Pradesh. And I'm quite happy to say that there are 17,000 of SHG women have been elected at various levels, Gram Panchayat, Janpad Panchayat and Jila Panchayats. So they want to move ahead. And I got the opportunity to meet such woman who was the member of the Jila Panchayat. And I said, how did you got elected? Sir, she said, I want to do more for the community. And all the SHG members, they decided we will elect you unanimously. Nobody is going to stand opposite you also. And sir, I am quite hopeful that in the 15-20 years, some SHG member is going to be the Chief Minister also, the way they are moving ahead. Thank you very much. These are some of my ideas.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you for the very important inputs. You talked about again, the trust, the wisdom and the knowledge of the community. You talked about capacity building, localizing, learning, technology. So since we will not have you again, because we need to leave, maybe if any questions are there, I think we can quickly take a question for him. I mean, if the other panelists are okay, because he needs to step out, yeah. And so one question would be, you talked about convergence. So, how do we actually speeden up or make this convergence far more, let's say, more widespread? Because the issue is about actually making more resources available to the panchayat so that they can, take a call on what they want to do and exercise their, wisdom. But how do we make it happen? One is devolution of this finance commission money. Can we increase that? Is there any possibility of those things happening? How do we also facilitate convergence? So is there any additional thoughts on that?
Certainly, convergence is very important, and I think we need to work both ways, from the ground level also and from at the policy level also. Ground level, if there is a strong demand, I think then there will be convergence. Nobody can stop it. I feel that way. And at the policy level also, I think we need to take the initiative. And I'm happy to say that Sir was, when in the advisor to the Prime Minister, he took some meetings also for convergence. So that also pushes the things. Because if there is a pressure from the above also and from the pressure from below also, from both sides, only then the things are going to work. And we need to devise the innovative models also, how we can ensure the convergence. Like I mentioned about the A-Help. So it was so many meetings we took place. Somehow there was the frequency matched between the Ministry of RD and the animal husbandry that we could do so much. So that is the way I think.
Thank you. Anybody has any question quickly? Yeah, go ahead, Sonali.
Yeah, you talked about the political buy-in, and that is very critical. But you have to give us some tools of what is this, how does this work, and for practitioners like us, what do we do to do that?
No, it's not a simple tool that for every initiative we need to work around it and how we can ensure. So these are not easy things. These are not simple things. They are complicated things, but these needs to be addressed. I think we need to sit together, and those who are, I think if we have got the passion in our hearts, I think we can find some solution. No. Yes, at all levels we need to work.
Thank you. So with that, I think we'll move. Thank you, Mr. Singh. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you. Do you want to quickly felicitate him with the Smriti Chinna or something? Can I request Anjani to go next, sir? So Anjani, you are also in a very interesting vantage position as a person who holds the resources. And in your current role in the BMGF as well as in your earlier role in the World Bank also, you've been facilitating this whole process of promotion of the community-based, strengthening the community, the CBOs, etc., etc. So as a person who has been involved in and currently involved in actually funding the new ideas, funding the thinking processes. So what is your position on this as to where the localizing SDG idea is today and what would your foundation would like to support further?
No, thank you, Naren. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much to the Pradhan for inviting me. I mean, I could, as a ex-Pradhanite, I could meet some of my old colleagues after like decades. So thank you for inviting and giving me that opportunity. Now, and as you mentioned, I've been associated in different roles with some of these work and all, and I would limit my thinking and sharing in a practice space rather than the policy space. I will leave the policy space to Amajit Sinha Sahab. And I'll come to the foundation a little later. But I do see that and I have not worked, to be very honest, on the Panchayat side much, but certainly on the SDG side, and I've worked quite a lot, starting from my old Pradhan days to Jivika days to MORD, World Bank, and now with the Gates Foundation as well. So my association have been quite long. And it was lovely to hear what Ilango Sahab mentioned. I think there is one common word which I see, the self. I see when it comes to any development outcome at the grassroots level, I think India is fortunate that we have two powerful institutions. One is the Panchayati Raj institutions, and one is what we call it, the whole network of the self-help group. And the word self is common in both self-help groups and local self-government. And if we, and I don't know whether it's just a coincidence or it has a much larger meaning. I do personally see that it does have a much larger meaning. And, and the way the SDG movement has grown in India, I think, again, I feel there is a lot that, the Panchayat can also learn quite a lot from this whole, self-help group movements in India. And I have noted some of the points I would like to share before I get into, the foundations part of it. One which I feel is super important is when we talk about localizing of this, the SDGs, the whole simplification of SDG. I don't know, when someone goes and talks to the Panchayat, what does this SDG mean to them? I mean, if you go to self-help group, and just now the Additional Secretary Saab mentioned, that there are almost 100 million women who are part of this network. If you go and ask, all 100 million women, who are part of the SDG, what is Panchsutra? I would give you with guarantee that at least 70, 80 million women would very clearly articulate what does the Panchsutra mean. And I feel that level of simplification has really helped this movement to grow. And if I draw a similar parallel, I think we need to have a similar kind of a simplification that what does the SDG mean for a Panchayat? So that level of, and when we say simplification, it's also, the whole contextualization. It's also localization of data. I mean, again, I'm And I would request the, when Nambajit sir, he would talk about. I mean, he had started the whole mission Antyodaya, where the localization of the data is very, very important, and that's exactly, I think in some of this, the studies briefing, it also came up that we have a data for the, for large number of SDGs at the national level, state level, but do we have those data available at the panchayat level? So that panchayat can also do the whole planning process. We expect that, okay, they will get involved on the planning process, but do we expect that that planning process should be best out of a hardcore data so that they clearly see that, okay, this is where we were and this is where we are now. So I think the whole localization of data, the simplification, the contextualization, I would also, as a development practitioner, it feels that, okay, SDG is decided somewhere and Panchayat has to just follow that and make sure that, we fulfill that. Or, they have a flexibility and they need to decide what does the SDG mean for them and all. So all these are, I would say, as a equally important, and this needs to be SDG movement. When SDG movement started, I mean, they have a full flexibility whether they want to meet on Monday, whether they want to meet on Tuesday, whether we want to meet in day, during night, whether they want to save 2 rupees or 10 rupees or 100 rupees. All these flexibilities were provided to them, and that's the reason the whole ownership that we see in the SDG movement, probably some of these things could be easily, done on the Panchayat side. The second point which I want to highlight is, which is again, I'm drawing the whole parallel between the whole saturation approach. The region, and especially when the government got into the promotion of, and SRLMs were set up and got into this promotion of self-help group, they made sure that whichever village is entered, 80%, 90% of the all eligible households are part of the SDG, network. And that brought a completely different kind of ecosystem than, you are sprinkling SDG and promoting, one group here, another group there, and like that. So, and if I draw a similar parallel, I would say, if Panchayat takes one goal and makes sure that no one is left behind under that goal. At least that goal is fully saturated and no one left behind, and Panchayat can be, announce that, okay, we have achieved that goal. I think this whole, the reason that is important, that everyone requires the whole sense of achievement and sense of motivation. If Panchayat, get that sense of achievement and sense of motivation by achieving that one goal, I'm sure, they'll get energy to achieve the second and third and fourth goals and all. So from that point of view, I feel it's important that, that saturation, which is a very cardinal principle of the SDG movement, has a lot to, do from, on the Panchayat side as well. I think, the third point, again, and nowadays, this is a, environment of women-led development. Every day I hear some are new things. I mean, just a few days back, I read that, one of the banks has set up the, all women-led, bank branch. I also read sometime back, all women factory. So, the whole factory is run and managed by, women. So I'm wondering, whether, and also in the yesterday's session, it came out very clearly that one goal where we are lagging behind and panchayats are not prioritizing, I think it's a gender-related goal, and none other than the previous secretary probably, mentioned that. And again, I don't have an answer, but I do feel that can it be, all women panchayat? And when I say all women panchayat, means both the function, the panchayat leader, ward member, sarpanch, to the panchayat sevak, all the functionaries are also, women. I'm not sure whether that makes a difference or not, but certainly we have seen in the SDG ecosystem it has made difference. Also we have seen, and there are documented evidence that how women participation in the panchayat through these reservation mechanism and all has really changed the nature and characteristic of these panchayat and all. My last point would be, I think a lot of goes into this panchayat planning process, and then this whole village it's called Village Prosperity and Resilience Plan, VPRP, which is done at the SDG network, and then that gets into, integrated into the whole GPDP framework. I think we talk about, integrating some of these things, and how to use the 15 Finance Commission's resources, or the other resources. But how these plans should also be critical for the other line department is equally important. That whatever the priority plan that through BPRP process and GPDP process are decided, it becomes a mandatory for the other line department also to take into account of following those plans and not having a parallel priorities plans and all. I think that will further help this achieving the SDG at a very local level. My final 2 points, one is I think the foundation, how foundation is engaged in. We again, as a foundation, we have decided to work very closely with the government, and and we know for sure that whatever the foundation investment is, it's a very minuscule, tiny amount of what government invests in all the development process and all. So we try to make sure that whatever the small amount that we invest should be a catalytic, to the larger government resources, which is going for these developmental outcomes and all. So we have been working in Bihar in a very small way, where women-led panchayats are basically supported through the training and capacity build program, so that they get the voice and agency, especially the first-time elected leaders, so that they understand this whole panchayat systems, and they get voice and agencies to deliver much better on that. We have been also partnering with the Ministry of Rural Development in this whole BPRP and GPDP planning process, and how to help and expedite that planning process. My only submission there would be that how that planning process should not just remain a kind of a mechanical exercise, but becomes a truly empowering process and all. Again, if I go back to my, yes, I'll wind it up in 1 minute. I again go back to my PRADAN days, and the whole PRADAN's recruitment process. I think it was such a fantastic process, where if anyone who is going through that recruitment process, and when they used to come out, they were not thinking about whether I will get selected and I will not get selected. But everyone was, used to say that I have enjoyed the process. Where I don't care whether I'll get selected or not, but the process itself was so empowering. It was so involving that people feel excited about it. I would say this: when all these panchayat planning processes are happening, I think that is the sense the community should get, both the SDG member and the panchayat leader, that this planning process itself has been empowering enough. Yes, outcome is important. We need to focus on the outcome, but the process is equally important, and that process should be empowering enough. I think my last point, being an international being part of an international organization, I do get opportunity to work in different places. Especially I've been working in some of those African countries, especially in Nigeria and Kenya, which are the foundation priority states and all. And I don't know, Naren, and if you forgive me, I think I was studying not in the workshop, and I don't know all those ranking that was presented. But I can share for sure, and I can take the advantage of my ignorance, that I don't agree with you in terms of we are not at a better place. When I look at the larger global, developmental context, I feel India is much better, better place. I was talking to Achintya, before this event and all, and when I go to those countries, I don't see that. The way India as a country, both in the government program as well as in the various civil society initiative, we have put the community, panchayat, women as the central focus of our whole developmental thinking. I don't see that happening in all those other countries and all. So I would say, I think that gives me a lot of confidence that we are at a much better place, rather than the rest of the world and all. And credit goes to both governments. I mean, both governments, civil society organizations, as well as even to the private sector who have supported all these initiatives and all. So thank you so much. I'm much more hopeful.
Thank you so much, Anjani. Yeah, surely we are in a very good place, in a sense, yeah. But the question is, how do we further speed it up, etc., etc. But you made some very important points, and I think the foundation supporting the women panchayat and investing in that community-based processes of VPRP and GPDP, I think that is very, very powerful and very, very important for this whole process of localizing the SDGs. So we move on. We are also now. So I've reserved the best for the last. Yeah. No, in a sense, we are very fortunate that we have Mr. Amajit Sinha in our panel here, a person who has been everywhere in policy, from the head of the ministry, the secretariat of the ministry, to the Prime Minister's office, and now also very involved in very active policy advising, and very worried and concerned about the last mile, as it were. And that was his last book also, the book that he wrote on last mile, the strengthening the last mile. And that's not the last book, but the last book he wrote. That's a very good way of saying it, Ved. Yeah, there's one more already coming out, I know. Yeah, so therefore, localizing SDGs is also about the last mile. So I think I don't need to further say what you want to say. Yeah.
Thank you. I think after the three outstanding interventions, there's very little to be said. But what I'll try and do is to put together in a frame. And Naren made the mistake of telling me yesterday when he sent the note that he wanted to understand the larger picture as well, the policy and how it fits in. It's important because, I think good ideas on how they get grounded into large systems. It's a bit like the Wipro ad, that, what does the Wipro say? The Wipro's ad is about actually, I'll just forgetting the phrase. It's about, internalizing a change process. They call it, abhi yaad aa jayega, I'll just share that. Bhulne laga hu abhi. So, no, any good initiative, the first thing which goes into a policy maker's mind is how do you take it to scale? And that's how we ruin it many a time. But it's important to understand that. Why it is important to understand that? Applying thought. Applying thought is the word that Wipro uses. How do you apply thought into large systems? I think I need not go into the history of it, but decentralization was not an uncontested domain. Even at the time of independence and thereafter, Gandhi and Ambedkar, their thought process was different on the issue of decentralization for very valid reasons. Both had very valid reasons. Ambedkar saw in promotion of decentralization a continuance of the social hierarchies that had informed rural life in India. Gandhi thought of it as a collectives resolving problems and moving on. This informed a lot of our thought processes subsequently. I am alluding to that because a lot of the positive discrimination, a lot of the transformations thereafter have changed those relationships, and we have reached a stage where there is a consensus in society that it may well be a good idea to decentralize. Now again, when we are talking in 2023, we must have more evidence with us for whatever we say. And the good thing about talking in 2023, you have a lot of evidence for all that we have been saying from the heart. We can say it with the head as well. On decentralization, for example, the NITI Aayog has come up with a 2023 report on multidimensional poverty. Kerala, 0.55% persons in multidimensional poverty. Tamil Nadu, 2.2% persons in multidimensional poverty. Bihar, 33%, and so on. Now, clearly the message is in the wall. Which is the state which has done most on decentralization and local self-governments, as was rightly pointed out by Ilango. The self is important there. Clearly, it delivers. It's not that it doesn't deliver. Why does it deliver? Now that's the other evidence question. We've had schools of economists, somebody saying ki have growth and everything else will trickle down, there'll be well-being thereafter. Others saying, no, do human development, then other things will happen. A third school saying, no. Just remove the asset deficits of the poor and they will be able to make better use of public services. Give them a house, give them a bank account, give them a collective of women's collective, give them electricity, give them a toilet at home and so on. If these asset deficits are removed, their abilities to access public services will improve. Now, why we are at a good point, the point that Anjani mentioned, I can see a lot of positives in a frame of what I call a glass half full. Sudipto Mandal, when he revisited Palamu, the villages that he had done studies in 44 years ago, he came back with the same conclusion. Some of you may have read it in the Mint, where he said it seemed like a glass half full because I did not see the kind of chronic poverty that I had seen 44 years ago. But having said that, most people had just crossed the border. They may have moved up from chronic poverty, but most of them were bunched just there, and any adverse event like the COVID, like so many things else, could clearly get many of them back into poverty again. Now, this being the case, what is it that is positive that we need to build on? The social capital of women's collectives. 100 million is not a small number. And I completely agree with Anjani that this phase of the livelihood mission is different from the earlier ones. Because economic activity and social cohesion is being kind of built together. There are avenues for credit, there are bank accounts, there are a whole lot of other things happening. But the important thing where we need to make a break, decentralization is not simply a finance commission activity. It has to become mainstream. Before the last budget, through all the fora, including meeting people at various levels, writing for the newspapers, I had argued for one very small point, and that was, for the 29 sectors in the 11th schedule and 18 in the 12th schedule, can Government of India in its budget statement say that we shall not spend a single rupee out of those sectors, the 29 sectors and 18 sectors, without the consent of local governments? Can we push this with state governments? Yes, you're doing housing. The Panchayat must know how you're spending and who's getting the house. You're doing small irrigation. Panchayat must know how much monies are coming and where it is going to be spent. This little change, so not as a prescriptive inversion, the Finance Commission giving 2 lakh to a Panchayat and forget decentralization after that, I don't see that as a solution. That's a beginning. But ultimately, mainstream budgets must reflect this change. The preparedness in terms of social capital, in terms of technology as a means, in terms of community resource persons on this scale. We could never have visualized 100,000 banking correspondents from among the bank sakhis. Now, this network of human resources is there at the field level. The PRI SDG framework, with all its challenges in many states, they seem to be beginning to stabilize with more leaders from SDGs getting members of panchayats. There are professionals, be it Buddha Fellows, be it Pradhan Fellows, be it many other organizations, across the country, quite a large number of young, well-educated individuals willing to work as a professional to transform lives and livelihoods of the deprived on scale. And of course, the GPDP process, yes, it's a routinized thing. We tried to push it very strongly. But when you try to push it after understanding what the territory is and not the map, then you will think differently. One how small changes matter, not for any other thing. It needs to be highlighted. We had all got into our minds nationally, political leaders, administrators, everybody, 2 अक्टूबर को ग्राम सभा होना है. 5 ग्राम पंचायत पर एक पंचायत सेक्रेटरी है, तो 5 जगह ग्राम सभा एक दिन कैसे कर पाएगा वो? Did we think of this? Now, I think these are the fundamental questions to be asked. Unless and until, now when the Sabki Yojana, Sabka Vikas GPDP exercise, 2nd October to end December, began from 2017 systematically, we had insisted कि आप डेट पहले डिस्प्ले करो और अलग अलग दिन मीटिंग करो, सेम डे करने की ज़रूरत नहीं. और जितने ये 29 ट्रांसफर्ड सेक्टर्स हैं, उनका फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर शुड बी देयर इन दैट ग्राम सभा. वी स्टार्टेड मॉनिटरिंग एंड ट्रैकिंग इट. It began with 2 or 3 of them coming for the meeting. RD वाले, पंचायत वाले आ गए, बाकी नहीं आए. अब कई राज्यों में वो संख्या बढ़ के 8, 10, 12 तक आ जा रहे हैं. I think that's fundamental to this transformation, this disruption that we are talking about. The day GPDPs have full representation of the frontline workers of the concerned line ministries whose responsibilities rest with panchayats, there will be change. The other point is about decentralization or a policy. केवल बोलने से तो होता नहीं है. Where are the resources? Have we given untied resources at the institution level? I recall again my association with the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the National Rural Health Mission, and then the rural development programs. We tried our level best even in the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan for education to give untied grants for teachers and schools, to make it mandatory that the school buildings will come up in a partnership of the village education committee, Gram Panchayat, and the headmaster of the school, essentially trying to see what more activities could happen at the school level. In the National Rural Health Mission, every sub-center got untied grants every year. PHCs got untied grants, so that no doctor at a PHC could tell you, हमने सफाई नहीं कराया क्योंकि पैसे नहीं है. There were monies available with all of them. Now, I think it's an important lesson in decentralization. Your cutting-edge institutions should display and reflect the change. That will only happen if you provide financial resources at that level. आप स्कूल में हेल्थ फैसिलिटी में पैसे नहीं दोगे, आप बोलोगे कि हम तो फाइनेंस कमीशन ने कहा डिसेंट्रलाइज कर रहे हैं. इफ योर वेज ऑफ स्पेंडिंग रिमेन द सेम, देन नो चेंज विल हैपन. So decentralization is always about that last mile of flexibility and availability of resources to do what is the right thing. Now, for example, nutrition. Now, again, the evidence with regard to human development indicators is very clearly that education, health, nutrition, livelihood, skills, they do not lend themselves to narrow departmentalism. It is not one ICDS program which will transform under nutrition. It is not one school program which will transform schools. All of them have so many influences and they are so interconnected that you need a horizontal platform very close to the community. You need a horizontal platform within the umbrella of local governments to actually do these things together. If you look at the evidence, why do states which decentralize more effectively perform better than other states on many social indicators? One of the reasons is that they look at all these programs together. Example of Sikkim. Sikkim recorded a 8-point decline in stunting between the NFHS 4 and NFHS 5. How did it come about? It came about because they had the women's collective and the local village committees which were very active. It came about because they resolved their problems through decentralized local action. Many of you will be quite surprised to know that the prime resource which transformed villages in Sikkim is MGNREGS. They didn't have clean water in their villages. What have they done? They have used MGNREGS funds to do spring shed development. They have brought clean water and stored it in the village, connected every household with it. Well before the Jal Jeevan mission, 2 states, Sikkim and Gujarat, was providing piped water to more than 70% households. The second thing, they used the MGNREGA individual beneficiary scheme to give a dairy shed to every rural family in Sikkim. Wherever you go, you'll find they've got the dairy shed with the MGNREGA's funds. Their entire organic farming begins from there. The cow dung, the cow urine, sustainable biofertilizers prepared and made use of. The institutions, primary sub-health center, every village having a health sub-center. Schools accountable to local village committees. When you put all this together, there was no rocket science, but that is what results in the decline of stunting by 8 points. Very few parts of the world would have reported an 8% reduction in stunting in a period of 6 years. So it's possible. Unless you do these things together, it is not possible. Just narrow departmentalism is not going to work there. The issue that comes up, and again, some people say Tamil Nadu has not done enough for panchayats, but Tamil Nadu has a lot of people like Mr. Ilango here. Very interestingly, political parties had a consensus, even if it is not the panchayat, even if other levels are stronger, unlike Kerala, the village poverty reduction committee, which Tamil Nadu worked with, and again across political parties, political buy-in was a question that was asked a little while ago. Across political parties, the village poverty reduction committee was accepted as a good institution. What does it have? It has representation of the poorest communities. It has representation of women. It has representation of vulnerable social groups. And they decide whom the benefit should go to in a particular program. The processes of participatory identification of the poor did help Tamil Nadu in ensuring decentralized capacity building and support to those households who needed it most. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have problems. It has problems of its own kind. Housing program, for example, there were about 2.5 lakh people in Tamil Nadu who didn't have a house, and who didn't have land, and land had to be given by governments. Each time they were going ahead with the housing program, but leaving aside these 2 lakhs who had not been covered. Till a policy call had to be taken by the central government with Tamil Nadu state. If you do not give land to these 2 lakh, we will not give you one more house. Inko zameen do, inka ghar banao, tabhi aage banana. There is a social hierarchy issue also there. That most of the villages are very well to do, but there are a few households who still live in a kacha house, even in Tamil Nadu. Now, I think some of these sensitivities, the point I wish to drive home today, Mission Antyodaya was started with this intention that data is important, and data which is validated by the local community and placed on the government websites, on the public website for everybody to see, is always the best way to make use of data. When the Mission Antyodaya data got posted onto the site of the ministry, I had many frantic calls. Because some newspapers carried major stories about how villages of some VIPs had not become open defecation free as per the community, because Mission Antyodaya data could not be posted without the SHG and the Panchayat validating that data. I had absolute frantic calls, please pull down your data, it is contradicting the data of the sanitation department. Our response was, we will not do it. We'll give you time, 15 days, 30 days time. You run to those villages and get it done. If you've reported as that open defecation free, it's your responsibility to get it done. Now, I think with data, each time you conceal it under a password, each time you give limited access, you are killing data and its purpose. It must always be in the public domain. With the local government directory now available, and with sharing of APIs, it is very easy to get the full picture of what is happening in a Gram Panchayat. whether it is housing or road or any program, you can actually get a sense of it very, very quickly. If you are able to actually push, because ultimately on this decentralization, as far as the constitution is concerned, it is the state legislature which has to take the call on funds, functions and functionaries. Unless the state legislatures agree, it will never go through. That's what the amendment 73rd, 74th provide for. Given that issue, how do we push that? Now, central, state and local governments, who are all part of the definition of the state as per the constitution, I think there has to be a political consensus that funds, functions, functionaries must move in that direction. Unless and until that happens, what we are attempting, that is the only way of achieving SDGs. Given the interconnectedness of the SDG goals, unless you create a horizontal community institution with the flexibility to innovations in human resources, innovations in flexible financing, at that level, if you don't, for example, on the subject of caregivers, all my assessments of all the programs in India on undernutrition tells me that the number of caregivers that we have provided for is inadequate. If we want higher women's participation in work, we will have to give better creches. And better creches will need more human resources, not less. So it is not that we are overstaffed. We are understaffed where you need them most. The community resource persons cadre which has come up, or the ASHA program which has come up, with some more changes, we don't want to create a new structure of government employees. That is not the intent. But somebody accountable to the community and gets a compensation which is decent enough to keep the interest alive in doing that task. I close here because I am in the bad habit of exceeding my time every time. Thanks.
No, it is indeed very educative and it's a pleasure listening to you. So I was also kind of in two minds whether to stop or not. So what do the organizers do? We have a time for a couple of questions or maybe 2 minutes each for final words? No? Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Just, if you don't mind, just wrap up and quickly. So I want to thank all the panelists for the very educative and very active session. I mean, true to the expectations of, disruptive ideas, new ideas. I think a lot of ideas did come up from the panel. Sorry we could not have more time for question and answers and other interactions. So just quickly to summarize, the stance of the whole process has to be self-government. It is not, somebody top-down assisting panchayats, devolving powers, etc. The government is my government, our own government in the village. So the stance is of a self-government, and the panchayat needs to realize it, as well as the policy makers and other levels. Total trust and autonomy to those institutions is very important. So it has to be displayed through actual, actions. So if you trust the people, how you devolve resources, how do you prioritize the needs and priorities that come from the community as most important. So that has to be displayed. One very radical idea that was, any decisions taken in the whole 29 sectors which have been devolved under the 73rd Amendment, how do the panchayats get consulted for investments in each of that? I think that's a very interesting idea, which I think we can all push in our future, interventions. So total devolution, decentralization, and powers to the gram panchayats and the other tiers. That is to become very important. That has to become mainstream and is to be reflected through actual actions. Building capacities is very important. It came up yesterday, and all the panelists here also talked about building capacities of the functionaries and the people. The social capital actually exists today. We could not have imagined the localization, etc., with people's participation of the level that we're thinking of, maybe 10 years back, but now there is tremendous social capital, the community resource persons all exist. So how do we now link very organically the local self-governments and the self-help groups and their tiers? That's very important. Introduce technology, make data available locally. These are all very important ideas, which again came up yesterday. the GPDP has to have representation from all the sectors, and that's a very wonderful imagination I think we have. We should try to make that happen. So these are, I think, some of the important ideas, and very new idea that I heard here is how do we also maybe experiment with all women panchayats. That I think is a very interesting thought. We should, I think there are some experiments happening in the country, but I think we should increase that more. And last but not least, as Mr. Singh said, the political buy-in of all this is extremely important. So how do we actually actively work, maybe the communities, the civil society organizations, all of us work towards building that political priorities and political buy-in, that I think is extremely important in making this idea of localizing SDGs more active and effective. Yeah, with that I hand over the session to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Naren. On behalf of PRADAN and Axis Bank Foundation, we would like to felicitate our esteemed speakers, and for that I would like to invite Tamali on stage. After the felicitation, we will have a 15 minutes tea break, and we will be back around 12:15